Okay, so the first piece you're going to need is that lower clamp, which is an under bracket. So that is part number 2SA-23340-00. And of course you're going to need the front forks. And here we have the right hand fork assembly, part number 2SA-23103-01. And lastly, the left hand fork assembly. That's part number 2SA-23102-01. And while I'm at it, the other video I'm going to do is highlighting the steering stem bearing replacements. So that's, I used an all balls racing kit for that. And this is just an off-the-shelf kit, basically for every PW50 ever made, even QT50s. And I believe this part number is 22-1064. So I've had this bottom steering stem bearing cracked for quite some time. You can see it right there, and this is a really common problem on the PW50. So along with changing the forks out, I have a all balls replacement kit for this, and we're going to throw that on. Hopefully it works for the updated steering stem and everything. So you can see here's the new steering stem and triple clamp set up. Basically it holds the forks and goes into the frame. And here's the old setup, and this is the difference. The diameter in these fork shafts are smaller on the old Peewees, so this is one of the parts that you definitely need and you can't do without. And be sure to grease the underside of the top nut, as it's the top side of the race for this top side bearing assembly. So this bolt right here and washer is the key component to holding this steering assembly in place, because this top nut was hand tight when I took it off. So if you tighten it too much, because I tightened it just to make sure the bearings were seated properly in the races, pulled into the tubes like they should be, but then I had to loosen it because this was all locked up if you kept it tight. So you're going to want to keep this loose until you install your fork legs, and then from there we'll tighten this up, and I'm sure there's a torque spec that I can find on that. So here are the new style PW forks. These are from the 2017 and newer PW50s, and basically it's a thicker in diameter fork, and I believe it's oil filled instead of just a spring and grease like the previous design. So I'm hoping this helps soften the ride up a little bit, because we're having some problems with the jumps. So from here, you basically just want to install them in and tighten them up on top. And of course, the brake side fork has the tab in here for the brake drum. So that goes on the brake side. So you're going to have to use the bolts from the original fork tube clamps here. So just remove those from the old setup and install on the new. And I'm going to check the torque on those as well. So I didn't show you the wheel going back on because I ran into a little bit of trouble and an issue that I found with this spacer. I think the spacer from the newer bikes is needed, but I was able to pry it apart enough to get it in there, and I don't believe that that's going to make a difference in the performance of the shocks, but I will probably get the correct spacer in the future. However, you can get by with the spacer from the earlier Peewees if need be. Okay, so putting the top steering bolt in here, you first have to make sure that the oil tank is up here, because the little bracket for it is integrated in to how this mounts. And I'm going to go ahead and add a M10 washer here, just because I don't want to crank down on the bracket itself. And I believe this is 26 or 23 foot-pounds. And I'm finding that 23 foot-pounds is making this steering assembly pretty tight. So I'm going to slacken up on that a bit just to loosen the effort up a touch. It's a little tight, but we'll see how it wears in with the handlebars on there. It might be a little bit easier with the handlebars.